How's it going?
Ah, you scared me. Ah, man. Ah, jeez. What do you want? Where did you go? Stop trying to scare me. What? I've got stuff to do.
I thought it was going well.
No, nothing is working right. This thing won't run right. It barely pulled in here. The brakes don't work. None of the wiring works. I've got so much stuff to do. I don't have enough time to make it happen.
Can you find me something?
What? What do you want me to find?
What is the most important tool you can have?
Okay, I mean, I don't know. A screwdriver is pretty handy. Duct tape, JB weld. I don't know what.
Those are good, but not the most important.
I don't have time. What do you want me to find? Just tell me where it's at.
Go to the toolbox.
Toolbox. Okay, toolbox. Fine. I'll go look. Let's hurry it up. What do you want me to find?
Find the tool.
What drawer of the toolbox?
Nah, I can't make it that easy.
Okay. Man, I see screwdrivers, more screwdrivers, wrenches. I mean, what? The duct tape. Here it is right here. Here's the JB weld. I mean, is that not good enough? You want me to use this on it? I'll be happy to.
No, not necessary. Keep looking, you'll find it.
Okay, I'll keep looking. But seriously, you have to tell me. Which drawer?
Check the wrenches.
I swear this better be good.
No, not metric, you dummy.
Oh, good point. You mean this?
That's it.
You took a wrench and duct taped the word patience to it. I mean, how's that going to help me at all?
Because you need to exercise your patience. Working on this stuff is tough, but you get mad if you don't use your patience.
I mean, it's just a rusty wrench. I mean, I've got better wrenches in the toolbox. Why would I use this one?
It's a metaphor, dummy. Don't use a tool enough and it gets rusty. It's a skill that takes practice.
Well, I guess you're right. I should exercise my patience a little bit more. This structure's been trying me. It's making things a lot more difficult. You know, parts are hard to come by, break things, and it's just hard when you're wanting to get something done and you don't have a lot of time to do it. But I guess patience is a virtue. Let's get back to it.
And back to it we went. Back to the story of our new friend, Big John. The 1957 Dodge D500 military truck turned into a farmhand. And in the last video we brought him home, we got him to run, and I nearly ran myself over in the process. The only problem now is, well, none of the brakes work. I still can't start it without getting under the hood. The wiring is shot. Wasps live in it. It won't stay running long enough. The tires are old. It has rust. It smells bad.
Alrighty. Welcome back to day 2. We're going to take this nice little Dorman ignition switch. I got this from O'Reilly. We're going to replace the old one that I broke and use this one because now I don't want to be crossing it over into the hood. I mean, you saw what happened. I forgot it was in gear and I nearly died. A little dramatic, but that's just how I am. Let's get this old broken one out of here real quick. See how it looks on the back side. I'm hoping it's not too difficult to rewire. There we go. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm about to put back in it. These wires look great. So I'm sure this was a fire hazard waiting to happen. If at any point you'd like to go over this bolt, now would be the time. Okay, there we go. I guess to make sure that we don't mess these up, we probably should do these wires one at a time. I'm going to peel back this electrical tape and maybe that'll give me some more room. But I don't want to lose the wires that I've got because that's going to ignition. Generally, I don't like using these little crimp connectors. I like heat shrink, but all sources of heat have left the vicinity. So this is going to make do. We'll make it a little bit better because this had no connector at all. So I guess Beggars can't be choosers in this situation. That's one. Work this onto our ignition. This is the ignition side. Put you on. And put you on. And then we will tighten it all back up. And I'm just going to replace all these wires real quick, and then we'll see if that fixes anything.
While I replaced these wires, I started to get a bit nervous as to the integrity of the entire harness. Now I know this switch was definitely replaced at some point, so it made me wonder what else had been fixed. How good was the quality of repair everywhere else? If this is the standard, y'all need to say a quick prayer for this truck not to go down in a blaze of glory. I guess before we get too involved, let's see if this thing will actually start or bump over one. Pump works. Oh yeah, we're good to go. Let's put this thing through the dash. Which way's up? So it's upside down. Oh, rotate please. And test. Aha! There we go. Done. Right down here. You can see that it's really dark. That's the master cylinder. This thing's got some interesting brakes on it that I really haven't seen before. You mash the pedal and it pushes in on the back side of the master cylinder here. There's one outlet line that goes to a master cylinder in the back of the truck, way back there. I'll get down in there and show it to you, but this thing is completely dry. The fact that the pedal moves tells me that the master cylinder isn't frozen, but it has zero fluid in it. So I'm going to try to fill it up with some of this brake fluid here. Now the fact that this thing has no brake fluid in it is either good or bad. I haven't figured out yet. Thing is, if it all evaporated, then maybe our brakes will work. There's a lot of reservoir this thing has to fill up. It's actually got 2 reservoirs. If that's not the case, then we've got a leak somewhere. And if we've got a leak somewhere, then our brakes probably won't hold pressure and work. I'm going to fill her up as much as I can. We're going to take old Big John up here to the shop. We're going to see if we can fix the brake system on it. I've got no pedal, but it does move. So that tells me that the master cylinder is at least not frozen. So that's a good point. Let's try this new ignition switch. That right there is the master cylinder we were just filling up. Now I don't see it leaking. That's just where I spilt some all over the side of the reservoir. But I'm going to try and crack that line right there, because that line goes down along the frame rail all the way down here to where it tees off. That T, one goes to the back brakes, and then one supplies this master cylinder back here. But this master cylinder has one line in and then a line out. I have no idea what I was talking about here. This line right here is actually our feed line coming directly from that front master cylinder. And this line here is going down to the T-fitting. That's our junction to the front and rear brakes. That makes sense, right? You'd think I'd caught on before much later. But no. So please excuse my confusion. Got a little bit of the please and thank you juice here. Nope. Break out the... I'm done playing McGee. Hey. Let's see if any kind of fluid wants to come out of there at all. If you said yes, you'd be correct. We do have fluid coming back here. That side didn't want to break loose, so I sawed it. And you can see on the end there, it is completely flat. So no fluid was getting through there at all. Now you know it's serious when your brake line is actually the same diameter of your fuel line. We've got some 5/16 copper tubing here that we're going to mimic that old line with. And if you've never used one of these tools right here, it's actually fairly simple and really handy to have. So we want to snug this up. We got the correct 5/16 little fastener here, the key. And basically that holds the, it's got flares on each end. We want the double flare over on this side. So we want to snug this up just a little bit up here. Crank the handle over on OP0. Basically that gets it level with this die. Now we will flip it over to 5/16 OP1. Since this is a double flare, we have to do two different flarings. So this is an OP1 5/16. Now we'll tighten this up real good. Make sure it doesn't move. Oh, put your flare on first. Mine's down here. Now that we have OP1 ready, take our handle and crank on it real good. Okay. Now we'll take and move it over to OP2 for 5/16 right there, and do it one more time. And we'll have a perfect flare. And when we take our fitting and run it up against that, it's not going anywhere. So I went on the internet and I pretty much just searched, what do I find for a master cylinder for this thing? I couldn't find hardly anything, especially for a 1.5 ton truck. Now the thing about this truck, as you saw, it does have two master cylinders, one with that booster in the back to actually make power brakes because there's no room for a booster up under the cab. So this is actually a 1/2 ton master cylinder, but it basically is the identical master cylinder to what's in the truck right now. This is the easy part. The hard part is actually getting the old master cylinder off. Let's do it. Figures as soon as I started on this, the rain sets in and it got heavy. Oh, the creeper is soaked now. Oh man, that was rough. Wow. It was just fine like 10 minutes ago and now it's pouring down rain. Come on, man. No. Rain wasn't getting any better. Every time I did something, water would drop right on my face. I was laying in a puddle by now, and I couldn't keep the socket on the bolt head long enough to thread it out completely. I was mad at everything by now. And after all that hard work, the GoPro decides, hey, let's corrupt the one file where you pull this master cylinder out. Thanks, GoPro. You're great. I'm good. Just keep going with the video. Here we've got the old master cylinder. See, it's pretty toasty. The good thing is that at least
was broken loose, so I could at least check fluid. But the problem is, if you look down in there, really kind of hard to see, but the bore is pushed all the way forward and it's stuck there. So that's why the pedal would move back and forth, but this thing would not push any fluid out at all. Now we have here, I'll wipe my hands off because I care about this thing for whatever reason, the brand new master cylinder. Now this one is, like I mentioned, for a half-ton, and it looks pretty much identical. The only thing that I can see different is the top plate. The top plate has the fill hole on this side, whereas on the old one it's over here because the hole in the floor is actually like centered over here. So I think it's going to be just as simple as taking these 6 bolts out. Well, it's a good thing that I actually am doing this because this top plate was barely even tight. These bolts were just a smidge over being considered acceptable. Now the moment of truth. Perfect. That is exactly what we needed. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I was absolutely done with the rain, so I decided it was time to pull a Big John in the shop. The only problem here is that, well, Big John is as wide as the door.
Now why is it as soon as I get done moving this truck inside, the rain outside stops? It poured down rain for a solid 30 or 45 minutes, but as soon as I get this truck in here and nice and dry, rain stops. I was soaking wet, so I took a break, dried off a little bit, got some Taco Bell. Y'all want to sponsor me, let me know. Y'all hit up Taco Bell real quick, just let them know I need to be sponsored, because it's not your fry box. It'll change lives.
Looks like it fits. Will this thread in? It does. Oh, thank you so much. Wow, I was so worried about that. We'll leave that loose for right now. I'm scared to get too excited, because when you get excited, that's when their problems show up. You know what's so satisfying? When you can ratchet with the wrench side. I don't know why, but I just love being able to do that. Our new master cylinder is installed. Look at that. Bolted in. That thread's in. We'll leave it off until we get some fluid to come out of here, but dang. See how good my aim is? Oh, not that great. And overflow it. Perfect. Good news, we have fluid running out of here. So now we will hook our brake line back to where it belongs. So I was able to crack this line right here. This is a supply line running to this rear master cylinder. Just so happens that there's a giant hole in the bed, but we do have fluid going to this line here. Now the problem is this bleeder that you see right here does not want to budge. So it's a little bit concerning. Now we'll try to fill this reservoir up here. So I've thrown our new brake line back into the mix, and I'm already having a problem that I don't really care for. If you notice, a little bit of a drippage coming from this area right here. So you just saw this fitting right here has split. So every time you press the brake pedal, fluid will just go out of it. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, it did. Oh, come on, man. Don't put it so close. No, I can't see.
Really hurt.
What was he thinking?
This tastes funny.
You can see right here, I actually broke it in half when I was doing that. The cast, I guess the parting line where the cast is, I guess it just got weak and split. So if we can get a 90-degree fitting right there, we should be back in business. Well, we found it. It took a century, but we got the right fitting. Had to go all over the place just to find it, but it works. And I'm so happy that it does, because if I didn't find this thing, I'd have been done for. Our brake line is tight, and it is tight here. So now we're going to fill the master cylinder up front, back full of fluid, and see if it leaks here. And it shouldn't leak here, but the next leak that I'm hoping occurs is right here at this T-joint. No drips right here, but you can see, got a drip right here, exactly where we want it. So we'll tighten this back up and go to the rear bleeders. Well, things were going great, down there at least. Everything was working from the T until it got up here. You'll notice up here, this is our supply line to the front after the T. We've got a fitting right here, which is fine, but in the middle, between here and the T, it is rusted in half. You can see a lot of brake fluid just dripping down here. Ooh, it didn't round off. Nice. Check out this. There's our old one. Brake lines aren't supposed to be in two pieces. So what I did, went and bought a brand new one. Got the length of it, and it ended up being just a little bit too long. It was about like 3 or 4 inches too long. So I cut it down to the correct length and then reflared it like you guys saw me doing that old brake line. Run this back up inside the frame rail just like it came out of here. After all that work, we finally have somewhat of a brake pedal. Before, the brake pedal would go all the way to the floor, have zero resistance. Now, the pedal has actually got some resistance to it, and I can't push it all the way to the floor anymore before it stops. And that doesn't mean we're done yet. We still have to bleed these brakes, but what that's telling me is we actually have no leaks. There's actually pressure able to build up in our lines. Yeah. That was all fluid there. That was a lot of air. Yeah, nothing. I'll have to replace that line before we do it. But I got 3 out of 4. Here's my theory on why this thing was even parked. So you know that fitting that was broken, that probably was the culprit of all this problem. So I bet you what they did was that fitting broke, all the fluid ran out, and that pushed the master cylinder all the way forward, had nothing to spring back with, no fluid pressure to push it back. It froze stuck just like it sits, wide open, and that's all it was. So that one little fitting probably caused this whole truck to basically be shut down. And then on top of that, the brake line rusted in half, and then it got kinked. Somebody probably tried to open up a line, broke it, and next thing you know, here I am trying to fix it all. So yeah, I've got one more line to fix and a couple other things, but I think we got to take it for a test drive. And once again, you thought wrong. Tell them what happened, Dylan. Now, experience should have told me that, hey, if you don't see the drums move while you're bleeding it, then maybe something's not right. Even just the tiniest little bit of movement. I got some out of the front right, but that was it. So I went through the field and just tried to see what would work. And as I was backing out of the shop, it would hold itself. Everything was fine. I thought, man, it's working. Everything's going to be okay. That wasn't until I actually tried to use them. I had a great pedal pressure, but as I was coming to a stop, nothing would happen. Driving through the field, I would just mash the pedal as hard as I could and pump it up to try to get enough pressure. Nothing would happen. And then I felt the pedal go to the floor. And that's when I knew a wheel cylinder had popped. Not only one, but both the rears gone. Nothing left. So here we are. Large truck up in the air on jack stands. Got to replace some wheel cylinders. Check how much brake fluid was pouring out of these things. That's no good. A little fun fact about these Chryslers. These are actually left-hand thread. So to take these off, we're actually going to turn to the right. You know, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Well, that doesn't apply to these left-handed thread lug nuts. A lot of people make the mistake of actually breaking these when they work on these old Chrysler products. Basically, the idea behind it is that as you're driving, the wheels rolling forward, the lug nuts will actually, if they're loose, will tighten themselves. And there's been studies that proved it. It's pretty neat. That's
the worst part. Here's a little bit of good news. The front is just about like rebuilding any other type of drum brake, and the rear is too. It's just a matter of getting the drums off is the big thing. The dust shield is actually threaded on, so getting it off is a little bit awkward, but once you get it started, not that bad. And then it'll eventually start going by hand. Alright, there we go. The cotter pin is probably the trickiest part, getting this all off. Around the world. Now behind this is a little keyed washer. You'll see it. Okay, there's the washer, and behind that is the outer bearing. And there it is, falling out.
Oh, easy
What's
now.
the big idea, man?
Quit.
Can't you see we're watching
Come on,
here?
man, that's twice.
Now we can see how these drum brakes actually work now that the drum is off. What we have here is a wheel cylinder. You can see there's a hose that runs into this wheel cylinder, fills up with pressure, and pushes outward on the shoes. And these shoes are hinged right here, so it'll actually push against our drum, and that's what stops it. And you can see it's definitely seen better days. Got a lot of spider webs, dead spiders in there, spider eggs, lots of spiders, stuff that I don't need. So I'm going to clean all that out. The ladybug is not standard equipment, so we're going to clean that out as well. Be free, little ladybug. Now there is a tool to remove these, but of course I can't find it, so we're going to do it the stupid way. Got it. See, that's why we have these on here, because that could have launched and pinged me right in the forehead. Now these are probably asbestos, so I'm not going to touch these. Whoa! Excuse me, sir. What do you think you're doing? Get out of there, spider. You jerk. See if I can do the same with this one. I touched it. Oh no. I'm contaminated. Ah. Dang. Pinched my finger, but it came loose. Alright, we'll just wiggle that back and forth. Ah. There we go. Oh, it's nasty. Yeah. Look at that. This thing is covered. Now what we can do is just rotate her off. Look here. This is the side that was leaking. You can see how nasty that is. Not very often I can say that I've had to dust my vacuum plates before doing anything with them. So it just goes to show you how inactive this thing has been. I mean, stuff was living in here for no telling how long. Drop this shoe too. There we go. Really get in there and clean all these cobwebs out. Dang. Makes me wonder how long this thing's been sitting. I mean, nobody's touched this thing in decades. Makes you wonder if I'm the first person to ever actually have these drums back apart after the factory, you know what I mean? Like, this could be the first time these shoes and everything have seen the light of day since 1957. So it's kind of cool to think about that kind of stuff. So I stuck a pan down below here. We're going to soak this thing to our heart's content. All that extra buildup, just thread it on and start it. We're not going to tighten it up until we actually bolt the whole thing on. And then we can use the original bolts and bolt it back in.
The process to rebuild is just the same as it is taking them apart, except in reverse. You start by putting the shoes back up in their homes, and you can see just how tough of a fight this spring put up with how many times I had to reattempt this. But ultimately, we won the fight and continued on. Then I applied some grease to the spindle, and for whatever reason I thought it was a good idea to repack the outer bearing before I needed to reinstall it. I also added a bit of grease to the inner bearing just for good measure. My first attempt at putting the drum on was a no-go, but a couple taps to realign the shoes made that a quick fix. With the drum back in place, we can reinstall our outer bearing, the washer, spindle nut, and cotter pin to fit nice and neat up under our dust cover.
Now the rear situation's a little bit different.
but we're not going to let that make us nervous. We can handle this. But first we have to take these wheels off, which is a job in itself. We've got basically a 2-for-1 deal going on here, and that one's not even bolted on, so that's great. I think that's all of them. The majority of them did not come off of the inner stud. That's great. Ah. Please. Thank you. Wow, this thing's been leaking for a long time. I've got this jam nut here that you gotta give a little taparoo with. Problem is, left-handedness is not helping the situation. Just like that, got it loosened up. It's always a fun time smacking your knuckle every time you hit a hammer. I just tapped it a little bit this way, a little bit this way, and it finally came out. That's the ticket. Look at there. Now it'll thread off pretty easily. There we go. There we go. Now this one, unlike the front, is oiled by the actual differential fluid, and this one doesn't use grease. So we do want to put this back in with a little bit of grease though. I hate to put this in dry, but we'll get to that when we get there. This drum is not fun to take off. It's heavy. Oh, there we go. Okay, slide this way. Did I rip my pants? You can see, look how nasty this is. This is all because of that wheel cylinder leaking. All that gummed up on the spindle there, that's from all that wheel cylinder leaking. We are going to super soak this one in brake cleaner, get all that out. First of all, we need to get whatever kind of nest this is out of there. I don't like that. I am curious to see what is in here. Oh, it's like a dirt dauber nest or something. Gross. And gone. So I ruined their day when I tried to drive this thing for the first time. Sorry guys. I cleaned up the shoes and backing plate before diving in to tackle the wheel cylinder removal. And at this point the process is just like doing the front. You want to get in there and wiggle your brake line loose without rounding anything off. Get your 2 wheel cylinder bolts out of the way. And then you can carefully remove the springs that hold the shoes on. And once you do that, you can knock them out of the way and pull your wheel cylinder out. You're probably wondering why I'm not replacing the shoes or any of the wheel bearings or seals. That's because everything still looked pretty nice. I mean, look at all the material that's left on that shoe right there. It's got a lot of life left in it. Also, I learned the valuable lesson of making sure that the springs are on before you try to put the drum on. I mean, look how much nicer this thing went on as soon as I figured that out. Heck of a lot easier. And at this point, I decided, hey, let's clean this up a little bit. Then I realized I'm a bit impatient. I want to drive this thing. Repacked my bearing because it all looked good, and this thing's not going to be used on the road a lot. It's more of a farm vehicle. It's going to use it on my land to pull stuff around, and that's it. So all these wheel bearings look good and go back in the same way that they came out. Slide the axle back in and get our seals ready with a new gasket and some RTV to make sure it doesn't leak, and then we tighten up all of our bolts, and this thing is ready to put the wheels back on. We're finally done. The brakes are completely rebuilt. get all the wheel cylinders in, all of our brake lines are tight, all our brake hoses are tight, everything should be good to go at this point. I'm going to fill the master cylinder back up, we'll bleed them again, and if we get a leak this time, I'm going to raffle it away. Listen, John, I know we've had our differences, but I'm willing to put all that past us if you would just please have working brakes. Drive down this road real quick and make it back, and if you're good, then I may get you an oil change with a little bit of zinc additive at that. And if you're really extra good, I might get you some new spark plugs. Sound good? All right, let's go. First test of the brakes. We stopped! We stopped! He's ready for road work, boys! Now for the ultimate test. Are we able to drive this thing down the road? We've been through a lot together. That's all we got. Uh-oh. Now's not the time. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Normally I would turn around, but for you guys, I'm going to keep going. There we go, a little more speed in it. That's second gear. That's third gear. We're doing it. We're on the road. I'm not going to do fourth, I'm scared to. Okay, I'll do it. We did fourth gear. We did fourth gear. You guys are bouncing all over the place. This thing rides like a covered wagon. We did it. Whoa! I'm going back to third because it's safer. I feel better over there. We're coming up to a hill that goes down to a stop sign. Now it's just a matter of, hey, can we make this stop? I'm going to coast up to it. I'm in neutral right now. All right, John. Flying brake. Oh my goodness, these brakes are amazing. Wow. I didn't even have to try. That was awesome. John, you are a madman. Yes! Oh, we did it. This thing runs terrible though. We gotta fix that. Wow. I cannot believe this truck is actually driving. Okay, here comes the hard part. The Yui. Come on, make the turn, make the turn. We've got the turning radius of the Empire State Building. All right, come on, back it in there. Oh yes, come on, come on. Yeah, bring back those cylinders. Bring them to life. Come on, second gear uphill. Come on, keep her going, come on. Yes, it's getting better. I still don't know how much better. Not very. I fought. With every ounce of energy I had left, I fought. I couldn't come this far and not make it, but it only got worse. Something has gone up in smoke. Let me get out of the truck. God. Okay, all right.
Okay, John, you win.
I set up the camera so you could see John return, but it was obviously too painful to watch. Things did not go as planned. As you saw, the truck was running fantastic, and all of a sudden, dead in the water. Tried to start it back up, but this time I noticed electric fuel pump was dead quiet. Then, next thing I know, cab is full of smoke, and I just had to get out. Pulled the battery cable off, jumped ship. It was over, end of the line. Had to get a flat tow back, and here we are. Now that doesn't mean we're going to give up. Big John may have won this battle, but he's not going to win the war. Make sure you subscribe. Go down, turn on your notifications so you don't miss it. Can you guys get this to 10,000 likes? I bet you can. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one.